Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today, Anthropic claims they're worth the entire U.S. economy. Apple just rugged enterprise hardware buyers overnight, and AI agents are driving an $8 billion fraud wave.
Yeah, I mean, it is just a bloodbath of capitalization out there right now.
It really is. And we have a massive newswire to get through today. We're tracking a macroeconomic AI bubble that is just getting completely detached from reality.
Completely detached.
Right. And then we have the sudden, brutal shifts in the hardware wars, an explosion of autonomous web agents, and we're actually going to close on how humanity is, desperately trying to preserve its authenticity in an age where machines are basically executing all of our work for us.
Which is, yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It's a ton. So let's jump right into the lead story. We are looking at the sheer, terrifying scale of the financial stakes happening in AI right now.
Terrifying is definitely the word.
Yeah, so there's this leak from a Wall Street Journal investor pitch. It's being heavily circulated by Joe Weisenthal over at the handle at the Stalwart.
Oh, yeah, I saw this.
Right, and the prediction markets over at Polymarket are just going crazy over it. So basically, Anthropic is prepping for an IPO. They're looking at September or October.
Right.
And right now, they're doing about $11 billion quarterly.
Right.
But, and this is the crazy part, they are projecting 190 to 200 billion in 2028 revenue.
Wow.
Yeah. And to justify this valuation to institutional investors, they are pitching a total addressable market, a TAM of over $30 trillion.
$30 trillion.
Yes, $30 trillion. Polymarket currently gives them an 85% chance to IPO above a $1.8 trillion market cap.
Which is just, I mean, it's staggering when you actually look at the math behind those claims.
It's so total.
A $30 trillion total addressable market. We really have to pause and contextualize what that number actually represents in the physical world.
Right, because it's hard to even wrap your head around that much money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That figure is roughly equal to the entire gross domestic product of the United States.
Wow.
All of it. Every transaction, every haircut, every software subscription, every car manufactured in the U.S. over an entire year hovers right around $30 to $32 trillion.
So they're saying their market is basically the entire U.S. economy.
Yes. Anthropic executives are walking into investor meetings with a straight face, claiming their TAM is effectively the entire American economy. I mean, it completely dwarfs SpaceX's $28.5 trillion estimate from their May IPO.
Right.
The replies to the Stalwart's post rightfully called this pure delusion. It's a hallucinatory financial metric designed strictly to justify a $2 trillion valuation before they even hit the public markets.
Well, the argument they're making is based on the full economic scope of tasks that AI models could eventually handle. Like if AI eventually executes everything, then the TAM is everything.
Sure, in theory.
Right. But the ripple effects of trying to capture that market, like the actual capital required to build that infrastructure, is what we really need to look at.
Absolutely.
So we're tracking a thread from @Dwarkesh_SP, who was chatting with Dylan Patel from SemiAnalysis about the underlying economics of these AI labs.
That was a great conversation.
It really was. And Dwarkesh highlighted this massive structural shift we're seeing. The industry is moving from inference compute, which is just the cost of running a finished model when you type a prompt.
Right, the everyday use.
Exactly. Moving from that to massive training compute as we get closer to recursive self-improvement.
Where the AI is basically coding its own next generation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And to understand the danger here, we have to look at the macroeconomic second-order effects of that shift.
Okay, break that down.
So to build the data centers capable of that kind of training, hyperscalers, meaning your Microsofts, Amazons, Googles.
We're big guys.
Right. They are driving towards over $10 trillion in AI capital expenditure by the end of this decade.
10 trillion.
10 trillion. And the problem is you cannot finance $10 trillion out of your free cash flow. You just can't. You have to borrow it.
So they hit the bond markets.
Exactly. But on an unprecedented scale. When hyperscalers issue corporate bonds to borrow on that level, they vacuum up global liquidity. Dwarkesh raised a terrifying point here.
What's that?
This level of corporate borrowing could literally break global interest rates.
Wait, really? How?
Think about how the bond market works, right? If a tech monopoly with near-perfect credit issues $1 trillion in corporate bonds yielding 6% to build data centers, why would an investor buy a U.S. Treasury bond yielding 4%?
Oh, wow, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't. So the U.S. government and governments around the world are forced to raise their own sovereign interest rates just to compete for capital.
That is wild.
And the end result, you could see developing nations functionally bankrupted because they suddenly can't afford to service their national debt.
Because the rates are too high.
Exactly, which triggers a massive crash in non-AI equities. The collateral damage of this bubble isn't just, a few software startups going under. It is sovereign debt crises on a global scale.
I mean, I see the macro risk there for sure.
Right.
But I'm going to push back on this being purely a bubble because we have to look at the leverage this specific type of capital actually buys.
Okay, let's hear it.
There's a post from at a 16Z that really nails this paradigm shift. Steven Sinofsky and Martin Casado were pointing out that our intuitions about startups were trained on a world that basically no longer exists.
Right.
Computing has completely flipped. It used to be an engineering-bound field. Like,
Yeah.
if you wanted to challenge a tech giant, you needed an army of 5,000 elite engineers, which takes years to hire and organize.
Sure.
But now it's a capital-bound industry. It's like the shift from handcrafting cars in the 1900s to the automated assembly line.
That's a good analogy.
Right. You no longer need 100 master mechanics. You just need the cash to buy the robotic arms, and a tiny team can outproduce Ford. So 20 people with the right AI models can productively put $1 billion to work today and directly fight giants like Meta. So yes, the CapEx spending is astronomical, but the output per employee is something we've just never seen in economic history.
I will concede that the barrier to entry has shifted entirely from human talent to sheer cash.
Yeah.
But that just leads us right back to the grim reality Dwarkesh and Dylan pointed out. Because it's purely capital bound, Anthropic and OpenAI are on track to control most of the world's usable FLOPs.
Right. And for the listeners who don't spend their days reading NVIDIA spec sheets, FLOPs are floater point operations per second.
Right.
It's the raw mathematical horsepower that dictates how smart and capable these models can actually get.
Exactly. It's the currency of the new economy. And if the game is purely about who has the deepest pockets to buy FLOPs, the centralization of this industry is going to be absolute.
Yeah.
No one knows exactly what a model trained on $20 billion will be capable of doing, but we know exactly who is going to own it.
True, but there's a ceiling to this cloud dominance, right? If 3 hyperscalers lock up all the compute in their massive data centers, the only way developers can fight back and maintain their margins is by running powerful models locally on their own hardware.
Which is exactly what we're seeing.
Which explains exactly what Apple just did to the enterprise market. The hardware wars are moving just as fast as the macro valuations.
Faster, even.
Yeah. So, at this, Alex Finn broke the news yesterday that Apple dropped the Mac Studio M5 Ultra.
Oh, man.
And the specs on this are frankly absurd. It boasts over 4 times faster AI performance than the M3 Ultra, and it features up to 256 gigabytes of unified memory.
And that unified memory is the kill shot here.
Explain that for a second.
So traditional PCs have separate RAM for the CPU and the graphics card, right? Which creates a massive bottleneck when you're trying to load a massive AI model back and forth.
Right, it slows everything down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Apple's architecture shares one massive pool of memory, meaning the data doesn't have to travel.
Right, exactly. So Alex argues the single desktop is beating 2 NVIDIA DGX Sparks, which run about $4,000 each.
Wow.
Yeah, beating them in sheer value for single machine inference. We are talking about running a massive open source model like DeepSeek V4 Flash locally with total privacy at incredible speeds on a $12,000 machine sitting on your actual desk.
I mean, it is an incredible piece of engineering.
Yeah.
But the speed of this hardware cycle is becoming a massive financial liability for enterprise buyers.
Oh, absolutely.
There is a deeply cynical yet hilarious post from @Ananiaurora that went viral regarding this exact launch.
I saw this, yeah.
He highlighted the collateral damage using a company called Namespace Labs.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you're listening to this on a MacBook right now, you might be wondering why a software company would care so much about desktop Macs.
Right.
Well, you have to realize that Apple doesn't sell dedicated rack-mounted enterprise servers.
They just don't make them.
Nope. So companies that need native Apple Silicon environments to run massive iOS and macOS development pipelines, they have resorted to literally buying hundreds of consumer MacBooks, ripping the screens off, and stacking them in server racks.
It's insane. Literally just physical stacks of laptops sitting in temperature-controlled data centers.
It's incredibly janky, but it was the only way. So on August 24th, Namespace Labs posts a triumphant picture unboxing massive pallets of MacBooks for their server racks.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The very next day, August 25th, Apple drops the M5 and M6 Mac Minis and the M5 Ultra Mac Studio.
Just brutal timing.
Brutal. These are massive leaps in performance, with much better thermal profiles suited for server deployments, instantly rendering that massive MacBook purchase completely obsolete.
Wow.
At Any Aurora pointed out that Apple rugged them overnight. If you are an enterprise buyer right now, pulling the trigger on a massive hardware purchase is terrifying because obsolescence doesn't take 3 years anymore.
It takes 24 hours.
It happens in 24 hours.
It's the ultimate buyer's remorse. But you have to look at what these machines are actually being built to run. We are seeing a complete explosion at the software layer, specifically with autonomous web agents.
Yeah, this is the real shift.
We are way past chat interfaces where you type a question and wait for an answer. At Nick Bauman _, who is on the OpenAI Codex team, he dropped the architecture details on the new ChatGPT Work web primitives.
Right.
It now features a persistent authenticated browser.
Which is huge.
Huge. That means the AI holds onto your session tokens. It doesn't have to log into your email or your bank every 5 seconds. It stays logged in just like you do.
Yeah.
It operates a 16-gigabyte RAM, 9-core virtual computer in the cloud, powered by a 5.6 model using codex compaction.
We should clarify codex compaction because that's what makes this whole thing viable.
Yeah, break that down for us.
Historically, if an AI is reading a massive code base or complex instructions, it eats up its context window, its short-term memory, very quickly. Compaction essentially compresses the code it reads into dense mathematical representations,
Okay.
allowing the agent to hold massive, complex software projects in its memory without crashing or forgetting what it was doing.
And we are already seeing the wild, real-world applications of this persistent memory. Mayo posted a video that just crossed 4 million views, demonstrating what he calls GrokBot.
I watched this. It's wild.
It's a 10-minute raw screen recording of an agent autonomously controlling his browser. He isn't typing prompts.
No.
The bot is just moving the cursor on its own, signing into his dashboards, pulling analytics, tracking news leads, and formatting his Substack subscriber metrics into a spreadsheet.
All by itself.
Entirely taking over tedious, repetitive digital labor without human intervention.
And the economics of that labor are just dropping to the floor. Look at the benchmark post from Ad Arena. They just ranked Alibaba's open model, Qwen 3.827b, as the absolute #1 model globally for image-to-web dev.
#1 globally.
Yes, meaning you feed it a JPEG of a website design, and it writes the functional production-ready code to build it.
That's crazy.
And it has 27 billion parameters.
Yeah.
So it's a relatively lightweight model going toe-to-toe with massive trillion-parameter behemoths. But here is the kicker. It costs 40 cents per million input tokens.
Okay, to put that in perspective, 1 million tokens is roughly 750,000 words.
Right.
That is the equivalent of handing an AI the entire text of the Harry Potter series, all 7 books, having it read and process the entire thing, and you pay less than the cost of a gumball.
40 cents.
40 cents. Meanwhile, the integrations are getting tighter everywhere. At Claude, it just launched unified user-controlled memory across their co-work platform so the AI remembers your manager's communication preferences and client history across all your projects.
Wow.
And at Lerob and at OpenCode just announced that Grok 4.6 is permanently integrated into coding environments like Cursor and OpenCode Go, giving developers curated heavy-duty access for $10 a month.
The software layer is hyper-optimized, yes. But I wouldn't celebrate just yet.
Why not?
Because when you drop the cost of digital intelligence to literal pennies and you grant it persistent autonomous control over browsers and terminals, you don't just optimize corporate labor. You optimize global crime.
Right.
There was a staggering post from the team behind Qwen, which is a very popular open source AI coding agent that runs right in your terminal.
I've seen it.
They posted a screenshot showing their payment gateway, Stripe, had to step in and aggressively block $8.3 billion in suspicious transactions on their ClientPass subscription portal.
Wait, $8.3 billion?
$8.3 billion.
I'm looking at this $8.3 billion figure and trying to make the math work on how you even execute that. Are these bad actors just programming bot networks to brute force thousands of checkout pages a second? Because the API integration for these AI tools is completely frictionless.
Exactly. It's a classic mechanism called card testing fraud, but scaled to an unrecognizable degree by AI.
So how does it actually work at that scale?
Here is how it works. Organized crime syndicates get their hands on massive databases of millions of stolen credit card numbers.
Okay.
But before they can sell those numbers on the dark web, they need to know which ones are actually active and haven't been canceled yet.
Right, they need to test them.
Historically, They would test them manually or with simple scripts on vulnerable e-commerce sites. But now, they program AI agents to rapidly initiate thousands of microtransactions on self-serve automated checkout portals.
Like the one Coley Line uses to sell their cheap AI access?
Exactly. Because the AI checkout process is designed to be frictionless for developers, the bot networks just slam the Stripe integration to validate the stolen cards.
Wow.
The fact that we are seeing $8.3 billion in attempted fraud shows how ruthlessly automated these networks have become at targeting the new AI infrastructure.
And speaking of friction in the developer ecosystem, there is a massive culture war brewing behind the scenes on how these agents should even be structured.
Oh yeah, the standards war.
Right, we're tracking a post from Qwen that is getting a ton of traction calling out Anthropic.
Rightfully so.
There is an industry standard emerging called Agent S.MD. It's a universal framework developers use to write instructions for AI agents, so they behave consistently across different platforms.
Yeah.
But Anthropic is refusing to adopt it.
Yep.
They are forcing developers to use their own proprietary format, KLUDE.MD.
Yes. And Ed Konchengwid is rightfully pointing out the sheer arrogance of this strategy.
It's pretty bold.
The attitude from Anthropic is effectively that they know better than the open source community, and they know better than OpenAI.
Right.
They claim their proprietary format is necessary for model-specific prompting optimizations, but what it actually does is deliberately fracture the ecosystem.
It makes more work for everyone.
It forces developers to write and maintain entirely different sets of instructions depending on which company's model they are plugging into. We've seen this playbook in tech for decades.
Yeah, the walled garden.
The company that tries to force a walled garden standard early in a platform shift almost always alienates the very developers they need to build their ecosystem.
Which brings us to a fascinating thematic pivot.
Okay.
If the open source models are writing perfect code for 40 cents, and autonomous bots are running our browsers, and unified memory agents are managing our Slack channels,
Yeah.
as execution becomes entirely frictionless, what happens to human intent? Where do we actually exist in the workflow?
It is the defining cultural question of this decade. And of course, the market is already trying to productize the answer.
Oh, of course.
At Brian_Armstrong posted a proposed solution to this exact problem, and it is a fascinatingly dystopian read.
What's he suggesting?
He suggests that executives need to stop trying to write their own emails and instead train AI to write exactly like them.
Oh, boy.
You take an agent and you feed it your entire digital footprint, every Slack message you've ever sent, every strategy document you've authored, every public post you've made.
And it learns you.
Right. The AI then constructs what he calls a markdown profile.
A markdown profile.
In technical terms, this is a structured text file that weights the AI's probability of using certain vocabulary, mimicking your exact sentence cadence, and echoing your core strategic beliefs.
Wow.
You then let it autonomously draft communications on your behalf based on that exact profile.
He even cited Stanley Druckenmiller as the prime example. The billionaire investor apparently used a personalized AI to draft a highly technical Wall Street Journal op-ed about the bond market.
I read that, and honestly, we really need to question the societal endpoint we are racing toward here.
What do you mean?
If Stanley Druckenmiller is using a synthetic clone to draft his thoughts for an op-ed, and I am using an AI agent with a markdown profile of my own beliefs to read, summarize, and reply to that op-ed,
All right.
we've completely removed the human element from human communication.
Yeah.
We're quite literally just watching AI talk to AI.
That's a dark way to look at it, but yeah.
It utterly devalues the written word. If I know an executive didn't actually sit down, wrestle with their thoughts, and synthesize their perspective, but just rubber stamped a synthetic output generated by their historical data, all trust evaporates.
The communication becomes completely hollow.
Exactly.
But the pushback to that synthetic future is already happening, and the market is placing a massive premium on it.
Oh, definitely.
Contrast Armstrong's markdown profiles with the post from the @Internet Archive that just hit nearly 7 million views today.
I loved this post.
It was so great. They reshared a video from 2021 showing how they digitize books. And it's not some massive, hyper-efficient, AI-powered robotic scanner flipping hundreds of pages a minute.
Yep.
It's a woman named Eliza Zhang. She is sitting quietly at an overhead scanner, manually positioning a physical book and turning it page by page by hand.
Yeah.
They do it this way to prioritize the physical integrity of the book, ensuring the binding isn't damaged.
And the economic signal buried in the reaction to that post is the real story.
People absolutely loved it.
The massive positive engagement proves a vital point. As hyperautomation makes digital creation infinitely cheap, an instantaneous, unscalable, manual human effort suddenly becomes a premium, highly trusted good.
That makes total sense.
We are going to see a brutal divergence in the market. There will be the cheap, infinite, synthetic content generated by markdown profiles, and there will be the artisanal, slow, provably manual human effort that carries actual cultural weight and commands a massive premium.
The ultimate escape from this virtual arms race isn't a better AI model, it's actual physical geography.
True.
I want to close today's newswire with what at SpaceX just announced because it perfectly captures this divergence.
Yeah, this is a great contrast.
Right. While the software world is fighting over $30 trillion virtual TAMs and trying to create markdown clones of human personalities in the cloud, Elon Musk is moving in the exact opposite direction.
Out into the real world.
Right. SpaceX just announced Starbase Louisiana. It is a massive new high-cadence launch site. They acquired 130,000 acres of ExxonMobil settlement marshland in Vermilion Parish to support thousands of physical Starship flights.
The irony is just too perfect.
How so?
You have Anthropic sitting in a high-rise in San Francisco trying to convince institutional investors that their software models are worth the entire gross domestic product of the United States based purely on virtual theoretical potential.
Right.
Meanwhile, the actual most valuable private company in the world is buying up literal physical marshland in Louisiana, pouring concrete and building actual steel towers to launch actual rockets.
That's incredible.
It highlights a massive divide in how capital views the future. One side is trying to simulate reality and capture all economic value in a server rack, and the other is buying up the physical earth to build the infrastructure to leave it entirely.
Okay, looking at this massive spread of news on the wire today, from the $10 trillion CapEx bubble to the hardware cycles to the explosion of autonomous agents, what is your prediction for tomorrow? Where does this trend line go next?
The $30 trillion TAM narrative is going to face a brutal reality check from regulators by the end of the week.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You simply cannot have $8.3 billion in payment abuse flowing through these systems without the major gateways like Stripe stepping in and forcing massive KYC, know your customer, friction on these open source AI tools.
So the party's over?
The era of frictionless anonymous AI deployment is about to hit a massive regulatory wall.
You heard it here. The friction is coming. Thank you all for tuning in today. Remember to stay vigilant in these markets, and we will catch you tomorrow on the Daily Vibecasting. But as you log off today, I want to leave you with this. If AI completely takes over all our digital communications, synthesizing our emails and drafting our contracts with perfect markdown clones, the only way to actually prove you agree to a major deal might be to fly across the country, look someone in the eye, and shake their hand. Are we about to see the greatest resurgence of physical, in-person business travel in modern history simply because it's the only thing an AI can't fake? Think about that.